Hey everybody, this is Cinco. Just kind of a quick little intro here. Sorry for the mess behind me. So I just wanted to let you guys know this video that you're about to see was actually recorded 2 weeks ago on the Friday right before Memorial Day weekend here in the U.S. However, and it was going to air Sunday, the day before Memorial Day. However, very early Sunday morning, I was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. I thought I was having a heart attack, and it turned out that my gallbladder was actually failing, and it had gone toxic, and it was attacking the rest of my system. So I was in the hospital for most of the week last week, and I have been unable to edit this video and get it out. I'm sorry that I look like absolute dog crap. I know I look worse than I usually do for my ugly self, but I'm still getting back on my feet. In the 1 week, I lost over 20 pounds. It's been a little bit of a crazy week, so I just wanted to apologize that this video is late, at number one. And number two, I wanted to thank Mr. Mark Artymko from Ocean for being so patient, and his team over there being so patient with recording this and me saying, hey, yeah, I'll have it out Sunday, no problem. And then this happened, and it's been like now BTC 25 has already happened. So some of the things we're going to actually even talk about in the video might be a little stale. But I still wanted to present this to you and let you guys see this great video and this great talk that I had with Mr. Artymko from Ocean Mining Pool. So that way you can check it out. Again, this little video intro is just my sincere apology for the lateness of this. I do thank you for your support and your understanding. And it was just really beyond my control. So anyway, I hope you all enjoy this video. It was supposed to be about 30 minutes, but Mr. Artymko and I were talking and having a really good time, and he was comfortable with continuing the talk, so it went almost a full hour. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'd like to bring more of these interviews to you in the future from different personalities around the Bitcoin community. So without further ado, here we go. Thank you. Here we are today. It's Friday the 23rd, and I have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Mark Artymko, the president of Ocean, in my opinion, probably the best option for a mining pool out there right now in Bitcoin. Mr. Artymko, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today in my little channel. I really do appreciate it, and excited to get to know you a little bit better.
Well, I appreciate it, Joe. Good to be here, and thanks for being a miner on Ocean.
Yeah, I love it. I see we hit a block about 10 hours ago or so, and I screwed up, man. So I'm down here in Texas, and I'm doing a remodel on my house, so I have things just where they shouldn't be. And my biggest miner, which for me, it's only an Avalon 1047. It's about a 40 to 60 TH. I have it in my garage, which in Texas is about the worst place that you can put a miner. And I came out this morning, and I didn't hear it. And I was like, what's going on? And it overheated last night. So on my biggest miner, it wasn't on the pool when it hit. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So my own fault. What are you going to do?
Well,
But
we have an 8 block share window, so you still got paid.
there you see, I didn't know that. That's great. There's good information. Okay. Fantastic. All right. That makes me feel a little better for my stupidity there to not check
Whatever,
that
like eight ocean blocks, so approximately 1 week. So all the hashing you did over the last week gets counted as work or proof of work towards our share window. And so if you were just off for like
4 hours,
a few hours, you would have been, pretty close to full capacity.
Fantastic.
In terms of the payout, yeah.
Cool. My wife will like to hear that too, because when I told her
Nice.
this morning it wasn't running, she looked at me and she said, "What?" So she's into it too. She's been orange pilled. So okay. So anyway, I'll get sidetracked all day. I don't want to do that and keep you all darn weekend. So first of all, if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about you before we get into a little bit about who Ocean is, so that way my folks that watch know who I'm speaking with today. Who's Mark?
All right, good question. Good place to start, eh? So my name's Mark. I'm originally Canadian. I live in the U.S. now, but I'm Canadian by birth, and I spent the majority of my career in the utility industry. So everybody in Bitcoin comes from different backgrounds, and mine is energy. So I basically started working for one of the largest electrical utilities in Canada called Hydro One. Cut my teeth as an electrical engineer doing doing substation design, equipment design, substation construction, project management, operations, and basically worked my way through the organization, just learning about all the different facets of the electrical industry. So really big power and background is like basically power systems engineering. So basically spent about, I don't know, 18 or 20 years in that world at a couple of different companies, but gained a lot of experience and exposure to how the grid is built, how to operate the grid reliably, and how to deal with power outages and interconnections, load interconnections, generator interconnections. So very, very huge focus on that side of things. And I moved to the United States. My wife is American, a Naples Floridian. We met and we spent a few years in Canada, and then we moved to Michigan. And during that transition, I moved companies, and then I had already kind of sort of untethered from that world, so to speak. So I was open to some other opportunities, and around the middle of COVID, 2021-ish, I got involved full time with Bitcoin. I joined a startup company out of Michigan doing some Bitcoin mining and other things not related to Bitcoin, but I'm now a Bitcoin maxi, so that's in the past. And yeah, and basically just kind of cut my teeth that way, learned as I went. I met Luke Dasher, one of the other co-founders of Ocean, along the way. I met him before I knew he was a legend, so I have a really interesting perspective on Luke, and yeah, that's kind of like how I got here, and I have 7 children. We live in Michigan, and 7 wonderful children. My wife Deirdre is amazing, and yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. I come from a big family as well, and I can appreciate that. And it sounds like you got your hands full with a lot of different things with that.
Mhm.
I mean, I know that having a bunch of kids run around. I'm one of 5. My
Mhm.
mom was one of 14 Irish. We're Irish family, so you
Yeah.
know how that works. But so yeah, it sounds like you've got quite a load on your plate. With that being said, do you find trying to balance being the president of a company and your family life, do you have a good method for that? Do you find it a struggle?
Well, you know what? Like being a father with a lot of kids, it can be pretty stressful. So you learn to balance a lot of different things, and you learn to balance stress and deal with stress, um, because it's coming at you all day long from every single angle. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the busy family life prepared me really well for being an entrepreneur because you're just kind of like used to being in that zone all the time, and and balancing. I grew up in a very traditional corporate, like kind of like corporate America, but it was in Canada. But it was the opposite of being an entrepreneur. So there's certain things that motivate certain people, and I've always been somebody who's drawn to the entrepreneurial lifestyle and mindset. So I feel like in this company and specifically within Bitcoin, I found something that is a passion of mine, and it's a little cliche, but nothing feels like work ever.
Mm-hmm.
So it all kind of blends together. My kids, they know. Last night, my daughter was, we were in bed and she's begging me to read the our storybook about Satoshi, and we picked it up when we were in Lugano at the Plan B conference a couple of years ago, and like technically, there's nothing accurate about the book. Like they get everything wrong, but it's a fun book that teaches concepts like a Satoshi and blockchain and Laszlo the Bull um and Bitcoin and mining and all that kind of thing. So it's kind of like just we're immersed in the culture, and sort of I would say work kind of extends into that. So it's a really good place to be. I'm the happiest now that I've ever been in my career up to this point.
That's fantastic. That's a good place to be in. I do corporate world now. I went the opposite way. I started out after the military. I was an entrepreneur. I ran a business for 12 years here in Houston, and then after COVID, I went back to corporate America. Just how
Oh yeah.
things were crazy and circumstances and whatnot. So I'm back in corporate America for my day job. Uh,
Yeah.
but I'm glad to hear that there's someone out there that is that is doing this entrepreneurial thing and at the same time can enjoy it, and that the good parts of it bleed between family and business. To me, that's just fantastic. So kudos to you for that.
It is a little harder to kind of like keep up with the house and the maintenance and things like when I had a 9 to 5 job, I felt like my grass was always cut, nothing was ever broken, light bulbs were always changed. And so I do need to make sure I don't kind of like neglect those like physical maintenance responsibilities too much because this thing never ends. We're a really small team, and Bitcoin doesn't stop. It's
Right.
24/7. So it's easy to get sucked in,
Mm-hmm.
and so I always have to remind myself to come back to reality sometimes and change the light bulb and
Yeah.
cut the grass or get my kid to do it,
Yeah,
right?
no, I feel like, and my daughter, she went to college. She's in college in Colorado, so like that's the same thing. Like used to always be like, oh, I'll have her do it, you know what I mean? And now it's like now we're empty nesters, and I'm like, oh man, now all this stuff falls on me. So I get it, I get it. You got to make sure those things happen. Okay, so Ocean. Let's talk about Ocean. Cool company. I can say that all day long. Cool mining pool. But I want to hear it from you. I want to hear that I'm the president of the company, and this is what Ocean is, and this is where I see us in 5 years.
Right on, yeah. We launched Ocean. We have a really interesting origin story. But Luke, myself, and Ian, we launched Ocean basically with this single purpose mission of fixing a critical vulnerability that we saw in Bitcoin, which was the centralization of mining pools. Like we talk about Bitcoin as being this digital money or this asset that has value and it has potential to disrupt. But if if there's risks that prevent it from achieving that potential, then somebody needs to do something about it. So we launched the company to make Bitcoin more secure and more capable of realizing its goals. And that problem or one of the biggest problems we saw was centralization. So this was the mission. It's turned into like from what I can see, like there's a cultural movement. I think Ocean was probably one of the first companies out there saying things like there's too much centralization in the mining pools and miners need, miners are just hashers and they need to, in order to be miners, they need to make their own block templates. And what is a block template? So there was a ton of education and but we stand for a lot of things. We've built a lot of things and we're going to continue to roll out products. But at the core of it all is the pie chart that we always see on Mempool's space of the different mining pools. The mining pools are the miners, right? They're the ones who are making the blocks and making the decisions about what goes into the blockchain. And that can't happen. That can't sustain like that. It needs to be
Mm-hmm.
spread out among hundreds or thousands of miners. So that's our mission. It's to blow out the pie chart. And in 5 years, I think we can get there. I think there's enough of a movement and there's enough of concern and the value to a miner of becoming sovereign again, like in the Ocean model, there's so many reasons that a miner would want to do it, that I think we have a really good chance of disrupting this industry and like making that shift happen and like promoting decentralization. So in 5 years, I think Ocean is a dominant pool in the mining space. We could theoretically, Ocean could theoretically be 100% of the network, and we would not have the centralization risks that we have now because there are at the core, our model is different from every other mining pool. Every other mining pool seeks to sort of control what goes on. They control the block template, so what goes into the chain, and they control the funds once the blocks are mined and the pool gets the money, they control who gets the money. So there's this middleman, this like Bitcoin was built on the premise of getting rid of the middleman. Yet we have mining pools that are middlemen essentially. So Ocean is not a middleman. We're just a coordinator of the payouts. We let the miners make their own blocks and we enable it so that Bitcoin pays the miners directly, and then Ocean just makes sure that everybody's kind of getting the right split, the fair split. So we could have 100% of the network and no risk of censorship because we're not the ones making the blocks. So I hope in 5 years, I hope that we're doing really well. I hope that we're, north of 20, 30, 40% of the hash rate. And more importantly, I would say ideally in 5 years, 10 years, we have 100% of the hash rate completely distributed with miners making their own blocks. And if we get to that point, then the risk of censorship, the risk of 51% attacks, they're just laughable. And then we can all realize the dream of Bitcoin, becoming what it's meant to be.
That's fantastic, man. I just, that's amazing. I love to hear it. That I see it so much on social media about, the folks that are in it, in Bitcoin, and are really in it. That's what they're looking for. And I know there's miners out there that they're trying to take a profit today. I got no problem with that. I understand it. I'm a small guy. I got my little miners back there behind me. I mine to hold. I don't mine to sell right now.
Yeah.
My goal is to accumulate, and I like seeing that I have a chance through Ocean to do that in a safe manner without. I don't feel like I'm competing with anyone within the same pool, if that makes any sense. Whereas if I was in one of the larger pools, I would feel like I'm competing with every other person in there. If I don't have the highest hash rate, then I'm not getting it. So I do like that. I do like the structure of structuralness. No, that's not even a word, but I'm going to make it up right now. So that's fantastic. Let me see here. I'm going through my list. I kind of lost it there because I was wrapped up with what you were saying, and it was just such good stuff. Okay, so Ocean. Luke was he created Allegius before he was part of Ocean back in the day. It has a storied history. That was a good idea he had there. Do you feel that Ocean's kind of like almost like a spiritual successor of Allegius? And I saw that the principles that you guys have is like transparency, permissionlessness, which is what we were just kind of talking about, and the non-custodial way of Bitcoining. You guys are, like you said, you're not the middleman, you're just a coordinator. Do you feel like that is kind of carrying forward what Luke had originally envisioned when he did Allegius and just kind of modernizing it now?
Yeah, pretty much spot on. When we launched, we were actually going to call the pool Allegius. That was the plan from the
Mm-hmm.
early days there. It was like Luke had visions of this decentralization back in the early days. And for anyone watching who doesn't know, it was one of the earliest mining pools, and it ran from 2011 until about 2017 with Luke and one other guy, Jason Hughes, who went by the handle WizKid57 back then, and extremely successful, about 20% of the hash rate at the peak, which is about the size of, the largest pools today. But it had all of the same elements of Ocean when we launched, which was permissionlessness. There's no accounts. Like, you don't need to get my permission to mine, just like
Right.
you don't need anybody's permission to use Bitcoin. It's like a ludicrous thing that you would have to get somebody's permission to mine, but whatever. Um, so yeah, you just punch in a Bitcoin address. We don't hold the money. The money gets paid directly from the network. It's non-custodial. It's totally transparent. You can see your work. You can verify your split. You can see what goes into the blocks before. So all of these things were carryovers from Allegius, but I think the code base was rewritten for efficiency, and obviously we added the decentralization. But we relaunched it with taking something that worked great, that was more of a hobby for Luke, to turn it into a for-profit business in order to compete with the other for-profit companies and do it better. But you used the word spiritual successor, which was interesting because Luke named Eligius after the patron saint of gold miners, because that's who he was. And so we were going to keep Eligius the same. And in fact, when we set up the company that operates, everybody knows the brand Ocean is the pool, but the company is actually called Mummelin Inc. It's a Wyoming C Corp. And Mummelin, you wonder what goes on inside some of the boardrooms when people are having marketing conversations and branding strategies.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just like, all right, well, Eligius, it's got to be close to Eligius. So, the story is when Eligius, the guy, the bishop, when he died, the guy that took his place was Mummelin. and he became Saint Mumlin. So we're like, well, there's that we're just basically restarting Eligius with the next thing. So why don't we call it Mumlin? So that's how the name came to be. And along the way, we were planning on calling the pool Eligius, and but there was a problem because being a name that has, well, it's spelt the way it is, and with the G and the E, nobody could really agree on how to pronounce it properly. So I said Eligius. I think you said Eligius.
Uh-huh.
Luke, who arguably should, we should use his pronunciation. He said Eligius, and then Ian, the lawyer, he pronounced it Eligius. So it was a big mess. And Jack Dorsey, when he after he invested in us, we had some strategy calls with him, and he was like reminded me of that scene from Saturday Night Live where he's like, fellas, what's going on? He's like, look, when you guys launch this product, you're gonna go to a conference and you're gonna say Eligius. Like, what are people gonna type in their web browser to find you? And we're like, good point. He's like, yep, I'm not, yeah, I'm not going to force you to do it, but you may want to consider a name change just so it has a little bit more recognition. And so the criteria was people have to be able to pronounce it right and spell it right. Those were like one and two. And then Ocean just kind of organically rose to the surface because of those characteristics of what made the pool special in the early days, which was permissionlessness, right? Like you can't just go in somebody's backyard and use their pool. You have to get their permission, but anybody can go into the ocean.
Mhm.
It's transparent, it's accessible to all. Nobody really owns it per se. So it just, ocean is not just a mining pool, but it's meant for more than that, and it's meant to take over like the entireness of the network in a decentralized way. So really interesting way we came up, and like anything, like naming anything you name, whether it's a child or a pet or whatnot, or a company, it feels a little bit different and awkward at first, but then once it's out in the wild,
Mhm.
it's its own identity, and you can't even imagine the kinds of things that can happen. And so, a couple of other names that were in the running at the time were, well, one of them was Salt, and I'm, because like Bitcoiners are the salt of the earth, that kind of like character. And but we came up with Ocean, and it seemed to work well, and it fit the logo we drew up, so that was a pleasant coincidence.
That's cool. My 4 year degree is actually in marketing, so
Oh, there you go.
yeah. So I kind of I can imagine being in that boardroom and you're saying we're gonna call it Moomin, and I get that's the you have your DBA as Ocean, and I can just imagine like my head twitching sitting in that room like how am I gonna sell this? So yeah,
Yeah.
I like
How do you
Ocean.
pronounce that?
I do like Ocean. That's fantastic. So speaking of the team,
Yeah.
and for anyone who follows anything going on in Bitcoin, especially mining, uh, they probably know of certain members of your team that you have there. You've got Mechanic, you've got Luke, you've got some big personalities. There's other members of your team. There's Leo. I've been watching some of the guys on your team on X, and I like the information they put out. That's why one of the reasons why I reached out to you guys. But you got some strong personalities on that team,
Mm,
some strong conviction, which is a good thing. But I
mm.
can imagine that can get a little tense. That can get a little pressurous there. What's that like when you guys are having your meetings? I mean, having all those like strong personalities in there.
Yeah. Well, it's great. Like you want to have the smartest people in the room, and you want everybody to have a voice, and above any ego, you want the right decision to be made all the time.
Mm.
And I feel like the culture that we have is very much it's kind of like a culture of humility in the company, where it doesn't really matter who you are or what your background was. Everybody has a voice, and so we we're very collaborative with a lot of things, and it's in stark contrast to my previous life being in corporate America, where it's kind of like command and
Yep.
control. There's like defined hierarchies.
Mm-hmm.
Don't argue with your boss.
Yep.
All these things. that these cultural norms that kind of crept into that way of like running a business, the only thing they do is they make it easy for like to align decisions, but it makes it really difficult to get good feedback from the people who actually see the problems.
Absolutely.
So um, so we ours is the opposite approach. Like everybody has a voice, and we're moving fast. Like we launched the pool in November of 23. Wow, we started the company earlier that year. We did our fundraise, and then within a few months we had a working pool. 6 months later, Jason rolled out the DATUM code with blocks found on DATUM, and we're just getting started. So there's like we're moving like at a really quick pace, and so I think we have some of the best developers in the business on our team. So things do definitely do get heated. We have differing opinions on things. I would say just like any company, just like any organization or a family. But the key is that we hash it out. Like we hash it out, and I'll give Luke credit for this as well. Like hearing everybody out and listening to the different opinions, and then and being kind of like humble enough to like concede your position if somebody else has a better. It's like if you wanted to have an argument, but nothing's emotional, and you just got to get the best ideas out, and then everybody kind of like, there's Luke is ultimately head of strategy and CTO of the company. So, but there's a huge collaborative nature to everything we do, and I think it builds an engagement, right? Like, how often do you get to feel like you're part of the decision for a startup company that's kind of
Right.
like transforming how Bitcoin mining works? And and we're again, we're like everyone else, we're really savvy with the tech and the communications and the you know just to use it as an example, email versus some of the systems we have in place now. I think the tools themselves enable a lot of this collaboration to happen off hours, weekends, all over the place. So the use of the technology and the fact that like everybody's just in this for the long haul, I think is there's just a lot of commitment and passion and on everybody in the team. So, and you mentioned Leo, like yeah, he's great, but yeah, so a lot of strong opinions, but we're a really tight unit, and sometimes we disagree on things, but we get over it, and then it's usually for the better because and the important thing is once there's like a decision and a direction, everybody gets behind it, and we just go full speed ahead.
Cool. That's fantastic. And I got to say, your whole team, probably among the most open and communicative I've seen on social media of the pools. I've never had a problem trying to find information or get in touch with someone when reaching out to you guys about anything, which to me is, corporate America, you usually got your point person, which you do. You got your point person, and that's cool. But like, someone can literally put a message up for a mechanic, and he'll most likely respond pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's amazing to have that access to a team that is doing so much for what is going to be the future of money on this planet. So, and I
Mhm.
just, kudos to your team for that. It's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit, get on to a little bit more about the mining stuff. Nothing too technical.
Yeah.
I'm more one to talk about. I'm a small guy. I have less than 100 T that I mine with. I'm a small guy still. I'm never going to have the big operations. Nothing like that. There's a lot of small guys out there like me that say, it's great to lottery mine. It's fun. You want to hit that block, get your 3.125, but of course the odds are definitely never in our favor.
Hmm.
So sometimes you got miners like me that say, I think I want to dip my toes into a pool. I want to see, it feels good to see a trickle of Satoshis come in. It makes you feel like you're actually accomplishing something. But a lot of the bigger pools, it's just, I mean, I don't know. In my mind, it's not worth it. Do you feel that Ocean is the best option for small guys like me, for the guys running their Bidax Gammas or their Nano 3Ss or their small S9 that they got on eBay, whatever it is? Do you think that Ocean is the best option for guys like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a host of reasons why Ocean would just be a better fit in general. And when we were coming up with the pricing strategy for the fees in general, we really had the small miners in mind because when we looked at the landscape of pools and miner demographics and different fees, it was really apparent that the fees were tilted in favor of huge miners, and usually the small guys were the ones that got the worst deal and the short end of the stick and paying the highest fees. So we run a really lean operation. Like some of the other pools are hundreds of employees, and that necessarily they need to be like that because they're taking custody of funds. So it's more like a bank account. But we have 10 people, and we can operate we can operate with 10 people for even when we're like fully successful and multiple percent of the hash rate, because what we're doing is very simple. And so we decided that we don't necessarily need to gouge the little guys um, in order to make extra profit. We can just charge everybody the same low rate. So based on economics alone, I think it's the most fair, the most level playing field of all the different mining pools. So that, like you mentioned earlier, that you feel like you're competing with somebody else on your pool, and Ocean, you feel like it's a more fair game that you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is that it is more fair because they're not getting like for the most part you're like everybody has the same access, the same access to the same low rates. So I think that's one reason, and that translates into higher revenue. And even though you're just trickling in a few sats here and there, it's a few sats with a smaller fee, so you're just going to make more in the long run. But it opens the door to some of the other things that are really interesting are the other features of Ocean, which is the permissionlessness. It's just easier to set up. Like I've heard,
Yeah.
I don't know how long it took you to set up your S9 and your BitAx, but it's really darn quick. All you need is the Bitcoin address,
Yep.
and so that's the entry is like the barrier to entry is a lot lower.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot quicker, and you're just talking about some hobby miners right now. But eventually, this industry is going to shift to more of like a home heating model, I think, anyways. And as companies like 256 Heat and others, and like there's a number of companies doing amazing things in this space. When you hook up a water heater into a Bitcoin mining operation or an HVAC unit, you don't want to go set up an account with some mining pool in some other country and like do all that nonsense because you just want to get the heat. You
Mm-hmm.
just want to turn it on and heat your house. So it's really the only pool that lets you really skip the line and just get to what you want to do, which is mining Bitcoin.
Yep.
And so I think the ease of access is one of the best sellers. And then if you want to be super sovereign and you're one of those guys, run a datum box
Mm-hmm.
and make your own blocks, and you can have a say. You can make your voice heard. So I think it's the best option. And again, we were inspired by the demographic of the small miners when we came up with the first iteration of the pricing model for Ocean in the first place. So that's kind of like what was driving it all.
That's fantastic. And speaking of datum, first off, I learned today that I've been saying it wrong. I say datum. That might be me being a
Oh,
Yankee from the East Coast, but
it's both. Mechanic has a really funny response whenever he encounters somebody in writing. He'll correct the pronunciation, but only in writing. So
that's great.
it's not pronounced DATUM. It's pronounced DATUM.
That's great. Yeah, I got to be honest. When I first decided to dip my toe into the datum waters, when I was reading about it, I was like, this sounds cool, but it sounds too complicated. I set
Yeah.
it up on my Umbrel node. It took me all of 10 minutes, and I thought I did it wrong because it was instantly in the network and running. And I honestly thought I screwed it up. Like that's how easy it was to set up Datum.
Nice.
I was
Nice.
so surprised. And every once in a while, I'll see somebody say, "Hey, this is a tweak that I've put out for how I set my blocks up," and I'll say, hey, "That's good," and I'll go in and I'll play with it and I'll add things to it. I've learned more about Bitcoin and how it works by playing with Datum. So I think that's fantastic. Datum is a big deal for you guys. Do you want to? Do you got a few minutes to talk about that? About the plans for Datum? What's the goal? Well, I know we've been kind of seeding it in here, but like, I guess the question really is, where's it rolling out to? What's the goal with Datum? Is that the goal to make that the whole network, the whole ocean network?
Yeah, that's the mission. Datum is really the mechanism for decentralization,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a new protocol that we came up with. Originally, we were planning to launch with Stratum v2, and Jason, our head of engineering, who wrote the Datum code base, he basically just decided that it was better for the purposes that we wanted to accomplish to have a different protocol written pretty much exclusively for the sole purpose of decentralized block template construction. We had like Datum is that's the mission. Like Datum is it stands for decent. I'm actually wearing a Datum shirt, if
I
you can
like it.
see. So decentralized alternative templates for universal mining. It's um it's it's basically the protocol that allows miners to make their own blocks, do it in a sovereign way, and still communicate with Ocean to basically participate in the reward splits of being in a pool. It's like having your cake and eating it too.
Mm-hmm.
In the reason people moved from pooled mining, sorry, from solo mining to pools is to solve for the cash flow. But in that transition, miners gave up the sovereignty,
Mm-hmm.
and that really wasn't perceived as much of a risk until much later on. That involves some intelligent parts and some brute force parts. The intelligent parts of mining from the very beginning were running a full node and building a local a mempool, selecting transactions from the mempool, building a block template, and then mining, hashing to that template to find the block. And in the separation of duties during the mining pool era, the all of the decision-making aspects, the intelligent parts of mining were moved over to the mining pools, and the miners just became kind of like the brute force hashers. So, and in that construct, you have on the one end, you have the mining pool who runs the nodes and who runs the Stratum servers, who builds the mempools and selects the filters and chooses the transactions, converts it into work, and then they give that to the miners over Stratum v1. And then so there's, you could see the scales really tilted
Mm-hmm.
in, if you want to know who's in control of that relationship, it's pretty easy to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And what all we did is we just took all of those elements and we moved it back into the miners box and we said, well, your miners are sophisticated. They can run a full node. You have an umbrella. Um, Datum is a super lightweight software package. It's 250 kilobytes. It can fit on any device that can run a full node. And essentially, it just does all the things that the mining pool does. It's a Stratum server at the core. So in the Datum setup, the miner, the sovereign miner, whether it be a home miner or a nation state who's mining Bitcoin, they get to run a full node, peer directly with the network, make their own blocks, have their own mempool,
Mm-hmm.
and then give that work locally on their own land to their miners. And when they find a block, they can propagate it directly to the network even before giving it to Ocean. And the relationship with Ocean at that point is, well, you're back to the original problem of why people left solo mining in the first place was variance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Miners turned into companies, and companies have cash flow needs. They have
Yep.
utility bills and payroll and stuff like that. So we basically solve the cash flow by having this handshake relationship between everybody else on the pool and you as the data miner. And it says, if as a data miner, if I agree to pay everybody else on the pool the proportion of money that's owed to them based on the work, and I pay them when I hit a block, then I'm entitled to payment from them when they hit blocks. And there's just this mutual relationship between miners on the pool, and Ocean is the coordinator saying, you're 1% of the pool, you should get 1% of the reward. You're 5% of the pool, you should get 5% of the reward.
Hmm.
But we're like standing on the sidelines, kind of like giving everybody the blueprint to include
Right.
for what to include on the blocks. And it's been a huge hit. The code is like I can't say enough about Jason's Jason's programming skills and the fact that he was able to spin up this protocol in a few months
Wow.
and that basically replaces what Stratum V2 was intending to do. And by the way, we did intend to use Stratum V2 since the early days of Ocean. And when Jason sort of dug into the code, we just realized it wasn't the right thing for us. It wasn't specific enough. It wasn't written in C. It wasn't lightweight. And essentially, it was a centralized mining protocol that had some elements of decentralization bolted on. But
Hmm.
with any software project, the core design usually resonates throughout the whole product. So the core of Ocean is a decentralized thing.
Hmm.
It's intended for one purpose, which is to put miners back in the driver's seat, and and uh, and so that was the purpose, and the code has been great. It's currently in beta, but it's working great.
Hmm.
We have about 70% of the hash rate on Ocean running Datum,
Cool.
and every third or fourth, was 70%, like 7 out of 10 blocks are found using Datum. And it's really cool if you go to the dashboard, you can see blocks that are found with Datum have like a little Datum,
Yep.
star
Hmm.
graphic on it, and then blocks that are found using one of Ocean's centralized templates look differently.
Hmm.
But the goal is to get eventually is to wean everybody off of our centralized templates and put the entire network on Datum, because
Fantastic.
that's the ultimate goal is for Ocean to not even be in any position to say what the blocks look like. It should be the miners doing that work.
Hmm. No, that's fantastic, and yeah, I'm keep looking to my left here, and that's because I have my little Chromebook here that I have my everything for my personal mining pool, my datum pool right here. So you're saying it, and I'm hitting
Yeah.
buttons and checking stuff, and it's that
Yeah.
easy. Like it's that easy.
Yeah.
When I'm at
Yeah.
work during the day, I can turn around and check how my mining pool is doing, which is so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It's a
That's
very
awesome.
empowering feeling. It's a very
Nice.
empowering feeling.
Nice.
Okay, so we're coming up. We're already over time that I had asked for, so I appreciate your extra time on this.
All good. All good.
But we'll start wrapping it up now, so you can get back to your busy day before the holiday weekend. I'm gonna have like three questions left for you. The first one is, what should we out here in the public expect to see from Ocean in the future? Like just even the short term future. Is there anything you would say like, hey guys, keep an eye on this. We got something cool coming out, or anything like that?
Yeah, we have a roadmap with a laundry list of things, but right from day one, we've um, we've been designing a mechanism for miners to participate in the selling of their proof of work. So, and I believe we've kind of alluded to this very briefly on some other podcasts and things, but we are working behind the scenes on a proof of work marketplace where miners who do the work can essentially sell their shares, their completed proof of work to other people. And this is different from a hash rate marketplace where a buyer may be buying, you know, 100 petahash worth of hash rate for a period of time in the future. This is, as when you mine on Ocean, your miners right now, they're completing proofs of work, and anytime those shares are submitted to the pool, they get added to a log. It's called the share log, and on average, every share you submit gets paid out 8 times. That's the payout formula that we use. Um, so if you think of a share as kind of like a depreciating asset, it's work that's already been done, but it hasn't yet been paid for because the block hasn't been found. So as a miner, you can sit there and you can wait for Ocean to hit 8 blocks and then you'll get paid 8 times. Or what we're building is this mechanism for you to sell that share to somebody else who who might want um, to buy it from you for a premium or a discount. And it's kind of like one of those scenarios where we can imagine different dynamics coming to play. But what we've seen for the most part is that miners really value regularity of payouts. It's the reason FPPS has become so dominant in the world is it really de-risks the mining process, and miners are busy running operations, and sometimes taking that one element out of the equation is really helpful. Now, having said that, we are organically, f finding blocks every about once a day already. So for the most part, it's not really it's an impediment to growth, but it still would be really nice, I think, to have for miners to have the option of just selling their shares to somebody else who wants to buy it. So we're envisioning a marketplace where somebody can essentially come up I'm interested to know your thoughts on if you would even participate in something like this, but somebody that would say, look, I'll buy all of your mining shares from, for 99 or 98% of what they're worth. And you get the money sort of upfront or as you're mining, you get the money kind of like regularly every day, minus a little bit more of a fee because it's going to a third party.
Sure.
But you don't have to worry at that point about when blocks are found.
Hmm.
And then this person who's buying the shares and the person buying, it could be me, you, it could be a bank, it could be any kind of any Bitcoiner, but they're essentially buying shares at a discount and then running it through the paces and basically doing it continuously. And if they buy your shares for 98% of what they're worth, and then Ocean eventually hits 100% luck, they're getting 100% of it back. And what is that? That's a 2% yield on the money that they
Right.
turned. So this is from a buyer's perspective, this is a native yield opportunity on Bitcoin where you can turn Bitcoin into more Bitcoin by by basically sharing in the variance problem, by sharing in the mining process with the miners by absorbing the variance.
Hmm.
And right now, FPPS is essentially solving this, but it's through a very centralized institutional approach where you have a couple of really big players who are providing, most of the capital that goes to the miners. And so you have two or three large institutions, feeding capital into this system, and all the miners that are getting paid FPPS, they're getting it from these companies, and through the roundabout way of how FPPS calculates the rates, they're actually, skimming blocks,
Hmm.
shaving blocks, and it results in less money in the miner's pocket. So this is actually a way for buyers to charge a less usurious rate to the miners, so the miners make a little bit more, and the people, who are buying the shares, they get to make a bit of an ROI. So it's really a win-win. And the beautiful part is it's decentralized.
Yeah.
It's in a decentralized sort of like capital network. So that's on the roadmap. The naming and the branding and everything is going to be, rolled out later on. But I think that's going to be huge and potentially game changing for us and the industry. I'll also mention as well, we are pursuing our SOC 2 certification. This is something that's it's been on the roadmap for a while. It does require a lot of heavy lifting on the back end, writing policies and sort of like we have some of the best developers in the world and some of the most secure systems built by those developers, and SOC is really just a reflection of those good practices in place. So for the publicly traded miners and for the other non-pubcos that still care about SOC, we are going to be pursuing that. We are pursuing it, and it's going to be coming out relatively soon.
Cool.
So I think you should see Ocean as, transitioning more into the mainstream for some of the really big miners because it makes us viable. And and I think there's been a lot of interest especially with the value proposition of higher revenue that miners are seeing. So this really just removes the barrier to entry for some of those big guys.
Very cool. And that both of these sound great. The second one obviously is great. It shows stability. It shows growth, maturity. The company's maturing. That's awesome. And the first the marketplace. I think it's just great that you guys are again offering options. That's what it is. It's not saying do this. It's saying if you'd like this, it's here for you. You're not required to do it, but if you want it, here it is.
Yeah.
And offering options like that is just, again, it just goes well with your whole everything I learn about Ocean's outlook on how you do business. So that's really cool. I'm looking forward to see how that stuff works out. I don't know if it's for me, but I'll tell you what, if there's somebody out there that, they're in that position and they're like, you know what, I think this fits for me. I would rather the money come this way. This works for me and my idea of how I want to mine. Hey, great. Fantastic. That's great. It's personal options, right? It's all about that self-sovereignty of it. So I think that's really cool. All right.
Right.
Before I get to your parting thoughts, and that's the open floor to whatever you want to talk about, I've got 3 mini questions for you. These are just little personality questions. There's no wrong answers to me, but you know how people on the internet are. So you could be the devil at the end of these questions, depending on how you answer them. Okay, you got to pick one or the other. Okay.
We're not doing sports affiliations, are we?
No, no, I try to stay away from that in
That could get me in
politics.
trouble.
Yeah, exactly. That'll get us strung up in town square, so I stay away from that. All right, pizza or cheeseburger?
Oh,
I know, right?
is both an option, or do I have to choose?
If it was the average day and you just had to pick, you're going out and you just had a long day at work, and you're like, I'm just gonna go
Oh,
grab something real quick.
okay. If we're like going to Five Guys versus a joint, I would definitely pick the cheeseburger.
Gotcha.
But I
Well,
would say I'm actually more of a hamburger guy now
okay.
because I really love the Whoppers and Whoppers have a lot of mayonnaise but no cheese.
There you
So
go.
usually I'll go to Five Guys and I'll build my Five Guys burger as if it was a Whopper.
That's cool. That works.
There we go.
All right. Okay. Cold drinks on the beach or skiing in the mountains?
Hmm. Again, these are you're presenting me with
I
two great
know.
options. But
It's
if I'm
tough.
given the choice, I think I'm taking the warm sunshine and the beach.
I feel you. All right.
Yeah.
All right. And final one.
Like when
Uh,
I've never been on a beach wishing that I was skiing,
yeah.
but I have been on a chairlift wishing I was on the beach. So
Yes,
that answers
exactly. Exactly.
that.
Okay. The final of these, Netflix and chill at home or going out to a theme park?
Oh gosh. I'm kind of like I'm over 40 now, so I'm a little bit more low key.
Uh-huh.
So I think I'll take the movies.
Right on.
Yeah, chilling with the family.
There you go. That's
Yeah.
me too. I'm out. I'm in that phase as well. Okay, so we got just a couple minutes left. I'm opening the floor to you. Anything you want to talk about? The floor is yours.
Yeah. Like I had a call today with a miner in Nigeria, and one thing I just wanted to throw out there that it's kind of like an overlooked element of datum that a lot of people don't know about. But datum is datum does it's built for decentralization, but at the core, it's just an aggregator of hash rate. It's a stratum server that sits on your land locally. And as an aggregator, this carries with it enormous benefits from a bandwidth perspective, because if you imagine a large mining farm having tens of thousands of ASICs that are doing work, those tens of thousands of ASICs have to get their work from the mining pool, the centralized mining pool, and the pool sends the work to each individual ASIC over Stratum v1 unencrypted to each individual ASIC. So you need these enormous bandwidth connections, and it's great if you're like in Texas on fiber, but it's not great if you're in the middle of the jungle. So as Bitcoin mining becomes more geographically distributed, it's naturally going to be limited to areas that where you have good power and good internet. Good power is easier to solve because there's a lot of distributed energy resource type projects like hydroelectric or wind or solar. And internet is a little bit tougher. Like Starlink makes it better, but I would say Datum is kind of like the cheat code when if you don't care about decentralization, but you just want to have the best setup for your mining operation, where you have the lowest latency, or your latency is determined by your connection, but you want to have the least impact on your mining operations from your internet setup. Datum is the way to go because at the core, what it's doing is it's aggregating your tens of thousands of miners into one connection. And that one connection talks to Bitcoin directly, right? So think of the savings in bandwidth of tens of thousands of data points being sent from the pool to the miner and back and forth to one connection being sent from your datum box or your Bitcoin node to the network itself. So the efficiency gains, we're actually going to be doing some testing and some comparisons just on the data from the IT perspective itself, just to show. But I think this is going to be a cheat code, and it's going to be a game changer for anybody mining in areas of poor bandwidth, or in the middle of, yeah, basically any country that has poor bandwidth. But the guy I talked to today in Nigeria, like, it was a no-brainer. They were using Starlink, and I think it's going to really, really help miners maximize their existing setups, and it's going to unlock a lot of value in areas where that were previously constrained by network and bandwidth connectivity. So that's just one element I wanted to get out there. It's not really a well-known fact. Um, and and the other thing, again, like, we've been running for a while. The pool is it's extremely stable. It's doing well. We have a lot of miners telling us that they're making more money on Ocean,
Mhm.
and um, I just want everybody to know that the rumors are true, and they're not coming from us. They're coming from our miners,
Mhm.
and it's very easy to explain why. You have the traditional pool model where the pool is the middleman. They've essentially insert themselves in between Bitcoin, the network, and you, the miner, and they do some really important stuff. They make blocks, they coordinate payouts, they take custody of the coins. But there's always anybody who's involved in any type of finance knows that there's always a cost to the money, right? There's a cost of capital. And if a pool is promising you guaranteed payouts regardless of what happens on the network, if a pool says, if we never find a block again, we will still pay you this money every day at this time, like, that's impossible to happen. And there's always a cost of the money. And the cost of the money is not the percent, is not the fee that the pool charges. The cost of the money actually gets subtracted before the fee is taken out. So you can think of it kind of like an invisible fee. So, that is kind of like when we first started, we heard from some of our miners who joined us early on, said that they weren't happy with FPPS. They felt like they were getting not their fair share of the rewards, but they couldn't really prove it. And so that's what sort of motivated them to come over. And miners that are doing A/B testing, and they're just coming out ahead. And it's because it's really fair and transparent. And if you don't need to trust us, you can actually do the math yourself, and you can look at your hash rate and look at the shares you submitted, compare it to the pool. Everything is there and transparent and accessible through the website and APIs. So anybody considering us, on the revenue side alone, I think we're going to beat everybody else. And we're just, I think, a really, really fun group of people. We're super, super lean and small. And you mentioned mechanic, getting back to people on Twitter. Like, the team is all about service, and there's nobody too big and there's nobody too small for us to reach out and help. So when you mine on Ocean, you're kind of an extension of the family, the Ocean family, and you just become part of the family. And we connect on Signal or Telegram or WhatsApp or whatever, and we can help you through your operations. So think of us like, some Bitcoin mining experts and OG devs in your back pocket to help make your mining business more successful. I read this in your preamble
Uh,
questions, but you were asking about some of the other people behind the
yeah,
scenes
yeah.
who don't necessarily get the credit. But, like, I think of Ocean as kind of like a rock band. Like, we have, Luke and Mechanic, those are the lead guitarists and the lead singer. And
Uh-huh.
then you got Jason up there being another lead guitarist. And then there's like a whole production behind the scenes that are helping to keep this thing moving. And
Uh-huh.
so those people definitely deserve a shout out. and
Please,
uh
yeah.
and some of them are a little bit more well known, but
Mhm.
Lily is kind of, she's our executive coordinator, you know, making sure things run, and things just happen like a stage manager, right? You don't really know what goes on, you just know that the thing works,
Mhm.
and it just works, so she's amazing, a total orange pilled Bitcoiner. We have Leo, you mentioned Leo. a great guy out of France, and Leo's story is fascinating if you ever get a chance to talk to him. But he joined us. He did a lot of that work early on, writing umbrella packages and helping with Start Nine, I believe, kind of like on his own, out of the
Cool.
goodness of his heart. And he just kind of like worked. He proof of worked his way into a job at
That's
Ocean,
cool.
and now he's indispensable. And so he's great. We have Vincenzo, who's been with us for pretty much since the beginning. We have one of the world's best Lightning developers on staff.
Mhm.
And you may not have heard of him, but if you go into the code base in GitHub, his fingerprints are everywhere. So we have like access to some of the best minds and the developers. And there's a couple of guys that recently joined the team from the University of Pennsylvania. So as we're kind of like growing up from this startup, you know, every company starts small, right? Everybody every startup starts in the basement or the garage. And Ocean was no different. So we started small, but we're getting more enterprise ready, and we are there. And a really important piece was that we want to make sure that the infrastructure and the redundancy and the virtualization aspects of our back end and the way everything works is just top notch and best in class. So we hired two guys out of the University of Pennsylvania, Chris Sabella and Kyle Small, to essentially head up our virtualization, our artificial intelligence, and DevOps and infrastructure uh, uh, projects within Ocean. So we have a really keen focus on security, cybersecurity, resiliency, and and virtualization as a mechanism for which is something that hasn't really made its way into Bitcoin yet, but it's in the data center world, virtualization is standard, right? And
Mhm.
so we're hoping with their expertise and their experience, to bring this concept of virtualization into Bitcoin mining, so it becomes more plug and play and more efficient as a result. And Ian Norton, again, he's a bright mind, great guy, one of the co-founders. Let me tell you, having a lawyer on staff as one of your co-founders is amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Like anybody starting a company, I'm like, look, if you can just get a lawyer, as he's great, and he's been a Bitcoiner for a long time. He's known Luke for a long time, and we gel really well. And I want to and then we got some, and we do have others as well, that folks that are working in the space in a contract capacity, but they've been instrumental in getting us to where we are. So you guys know Skylar Westby from Finite Solutions, and he's the guy that came up with our logo and helped with the original branding of Ocean and the web design. Scott and his team from SDG Systems, who do a lot of our front end design for the website, and JD from Unknown Certainty. He's a lot of the marketing, messaging, and strategy that we roll out. Even though it's coming from the Ocean Handle or potentially Luke or Mechanic, but a lot of that is strategy that's kind of like behind the doors, behind the scenes. JD is having a big input on, and he's got a great background working with big companies like Apple and Uber.
Oh,
So he's bringing a lot of that institutional knowledge over to Ocean. So I feel like we're punching well above our weight class with the expertise on the team, and everybody on staff is a hardcore Bitcoiner, and we're just, yeah, all really excited to be here.
that's really cool, man. That's a great team to work with. That's wow. I'm excited. I'm excited, and I'm not even there. So
Yeah,
that's really
yeah.
neat.
Well, you're a minor, so now
Yeah, someone.
you're
I'm a
part of it.
cousin now, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm a
you're the
cousin to
you're
the
the
game.
reason the whole thing exists.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying, and hopefully, the folks that are watching this, listening to it, that were kind of on the fence about what they should do, or they're in another pool and maybe they're not feeling that attention, or they're not feeling the love that maybe they could get over here at Ocean. Maybe now they'll take a look at it. So that would be my final thing for you. What's the best way for people to find information about Ocean? What's the best place to go?
Best place is our website, ocean.xyz. And in there we have a section where we profile all the teams so you can.
Hey guys, this is Cinco. The video kind of cuts out there at that point. That was kind of the end of the interview. I did have a little, thank you and everything that I did with Mr. Artymko at the end. Unfortunately, the computer didn't catch that apparently, but that was kind of the wrap up. And I just wanted to kind of end it just for making sure everybody knew the best way to find Ocean is obviously their website, ocean.xyz. That link will be in the show notes as well, in the remarks on the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. It was a fun time speaking with Mr. Artymko, learning about the ocean mining pool and all the cool things that they have coming up over there, as well as the options that you get with them that you may not get in other pools. Okay, is it the best for everyone? Might not be. That's okay. The point is, it's an option, and it's another thing that takes away from the couple of the really large mining cartels that are out there that just say this is how you're going to do it, and you're going to mine this way, and that's all there is to it. So I do like that you have the options with Ocean. There's going to be some haters out there that say, oh, it's all, it's still just another mining pool. Yeah, it is a mining pool. If you prefer to mine solo, go for it. That's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. The whole point is there's options, and you're given those options, and you are free as a person to do what you would like. And that's something that's obviously big with Bitcoiners. Anything that helps you increase your freedom and your sovereignty, right? So anyway, big thank you to Mr. Artymko, as well as the rest of the Ocean mining team. They've been great. Really appreciate the access. And I'll be coming to you here in a few more days with another video. We will be having another interview with another personality in the Bitcoin noise and signal sphere. But just wanted to let you know, this was one of the most fun interviews I've done speaking with this man. He's very intelligent. Really enjoyed Mr. Artymko and the time he spent. I've done hundreds of interviews in my life, both on radio as well as various other podcasts and pop culture and whatnot that I did before starting this Bitcoin adventure. So really enjoyed speaking with him. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please do the like and subscribe thing. I hate asking for that, but I'm a small channel, so please click that like and subscribe, and that helps me out. Share it out to your friends, and yeah, hope to see you guys here soon. This is Cinco signing off.